Welcome to What's in the Box, episodes of horror with Donna and Eric. I'm Donna.
And I'm Eric.
And another Texas AuthorCon interview with author Liese Sherwood Fabre. Nice to meet you, Liese.
Good morning or afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for popping on.
Yeah.
No problem. I love doing interviews.
Yeah, it's great to get to meet people we'll be seeing next week.
Yeah.
Those we
Table
don't already
16.
know. I don't even know what table I'm at. I don't know what number. So yeah, we have just some few fun icebreaker questions.
Sure.
So the first one is, do you prefer Freddy, Jason, or Michael? Or if there's another option, if you have a favorite horror character,
I
or
don't know
maybe
if
just
it's
a character you like from horror.
I don't know if you call it my favorite, but the one that creeps me out the most would be Freddy.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I'm not that fond of knives.
Yeah, he comes with the full package of different things to
yeah.
creep you out for entering
Yeah.
your dreams, the knives on the hands, the burns,
Yeah.
the whole backstory is completely, terrible. So
Yeah. I never liked Edward Scissorhand for that reason either. Just the whole idea of people walking around, even though he was supposed to be adept at it and could cut your hair very well and stuff. No, I wasn't going to let somebody with that many knives or scissors come in toward me.
So to you, Edward Scissorhands could almost be a horror movie,
Yeah.
because you're like, Scissorhands, no thank you. You figure one wrong move and you're like getting stabbed.
Yeah, he just sneezes and you're missing an ear or
Yep. Now, do you prefer werewolves or vampires?
Oh, vampires. Vampires are sexier. Yeah, I actually have a short story, a vampire short story I wrote years ago. And I was checking it today and I found out the links were wrong on it. So it's on my website and it's free, but give it a couple of days because I'm going to have to ask for I'm going to have to redo the links. But it's
nothing
called
more frustrating, right?
Yeah, it's called Debate with a Vampire. It's not very long. It's a short story.
Cool.
But it's based on, I lived in Russia for 5 years. And at the beginning of the 90s. And there was a group of Americans or foreign expatriates that found out that they could travel to the original Vlad the Impaler's castle. And they started going on trips every year. They would do a Halloween in Vlad the Impaler's castle.
That's cool.
They have a big
party.
That
is very cool.
And I imagine what would happen if somebody went to this party and actually met a vampire. And the vampire gives the person a choice. I can either suck enough blood out of you that you die, or I can turn you into a vampire. And which one do you want?
No third choice?
I don't think there ever is a third choice when it comes to the vampires, right?
No.
You get one of the fact that they're even offering a choice is really nice of them. Usually they just go through it like they're eating Happy Meals or whatever. So
well, I grew up also on Dark Shadows. The vampires weren't always bad.
And, right.
I come from a little bit different background than a lot of the people that you interview. I was a member of the Romance Writers of America for almost 20 years, 19, 20 years. And vampires are really big in the romance genre. There's J.R. Ward has a whole series. And what is it called? Something Brotherhood. Oh, the Blood Dagger.
Blood.
And True Blood and
then there's the True Blood series.
Yeah.
And there's Heather Graham has a series. So there's an awful lot, in fact, it was interesting. I would go to the conference, and the conference is geared to the writers. It's not readers and writers. It's geared to people in the industry. And I would go to the publishers forum, and I can't tell you how many times publishers would say, no more vampires. Do not want to see another vampire. And
Right.
yet you'd look at it and you'd go, but they're selling.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe you don't want to see anymore. And they said, in particular, no sparkly vampires.
But the
It's funny
readers
how
want
much
them.
that's funny how much hate she gets for those,
Yeah.
but everybody talks about them. So
Yeah.
even when, I mean, everybody we've interviewed, they always mention the sparkly vampire. So I mean, she's put her thumbprint on the whole genre, subgenre.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I'm sure there are werewolves out there for sure. But they're also shapeshifters. You don't have to turn into a wolf. Although most of the time the shapeshifters it's voluntary. It's not like the full moon shows up and you turn into a lion or something.
yeah.
It's more like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get that in the Patricia Briggs series.
Yep.
With what's her name? I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Mercy.
Yeah. That's a good series. It's a fun series. But then you also get that kind of on the spin-off series she does when it follows Charles and his mate, and she's actually kind of not, she didn't want to be a werewolf and she's kind of forced into it. And so even though she isn't forced because of the lunar, situation, she was forced into becoming one of these, and so she has those problems too. So it's it's an interesting read if you like those kind of shifter stuff. So
yeah, and Mercy, I think, isn't she's like a fox
she's a
or
coyote,
and she's Native American, so it's not like it's like part of her heritage. So that's what I liked about that series. Mercy Thompson is the character's name.
Well, I just like the whole series because it incorporates fae, werewolves, vampires, ghosts, everything. And so you get a really good taste. So if you're going to jump in and do vampires or werewolves, I think mix it up. Don't just do the one. So
yeah, for sure. Now, is there a particular horror movie from your childhood that you remember or that impacted you the most?
Well, I can tell you two that really got to me. One was, I was very young, and I don't know where the rest of my family was, but I was alone. My dad and I, my dad said, let's go to the movies. And I saw the poster for The Monster from the Black Lagoon. And I said, oh, let's go see that. The very first scene, and I must have been 5, 6, 7. I don't even remember how old I was. But the very first scene, there's the monster from the Black Lagoon is walking, carrying this woman draped over his arms. And I turned to my dad and I said, let's go.
Yeah.
And I didn't get through the credits.
Yeah, that's great. And that's funny because nowadays, if you were to see it on TV, you would probably, it's a beautiful movie, but I don't know if it would invoke that kind of reaction. But in the theater at that time period, I think, it's a very scary movie.
Yeah. The other one that I would never watch again is The Incredible Shrinking Man. And I can't, and I just felt so sorry for this man. Here he was, having to battle spiders with a pin and, and stuff. And he kept getting smaller and nobody could figure out where he was. And he was screaming and yelling, and it just freaked me out. Again, young, but still no interest in ever seeing that movie again.
And that's the cool thing about movies back from the 50s, and we look at them now, 50s, 60s, 70s, that period of time when everybody was trying things out for the first time, and they were trying the shrinking stuff and the special effects, and it's really cool to go back and watch all those movies and see. And then you can obviously see why it would be scary to an audience that had never experienced it, and we're so jaded now because of CGI and being able to watch movies just on our couch. It's such a total different experience. And that's funny because that movie probably wouldn't make anybody's list of scariest movie, but if you put it within the right context, it's a terrifying idea. So
I think the other thing just now while I was thinking about it was that there was no resolution in that he never got bigger. again.
Mhm.
You know, and at some point he was going to, I don't know, get into the atoms. I don't know, but and there's at the very end, I know there's this soliloquy that he has about I can't even, I'm not sure, but the power of the universe or something like that. And so, and that's supposed to be the resolution, but for a little kid, no, you wanted him to get bigger again and go back to
Right.
his life.
Yeah.
And find that spider and squash it. But
Did he defeat the spider though? Because I've never seen that movie.
I can't remember either. I just remember him fighting it with a pin. And
Yeah, that's terrifying. Spiders, a lot of people don't like spiders or have fear of spiders anyways, but to put it in that context where you're like, the spider is bigger than you,
yeah.
No, it's a good monster situation. I'm pretty sure he does. I think he stabs it and the thing flips over and its legs do the curly thing in and stuff.
curling.
Unless I'm thinking of a different movie with the
It
tiny
could be.
person. So
It could be.
Honey, I Shrunk the
honestly don't
Kids.
remember.
yeah, I know, right? So then we get to the 80s and then it's like, oh, it's a comic relief,
Yeah.
So
All right. So do you have a favorite novel or book of all time? One that you go back to or you recommend to everybody?
That's hard because I've read so many.
I don't think
And
we've discussed it. I mean, you're not a horror author.
no,
So
I do
is it
mysteries and fantasy.
okay, cool. So is there anything in those two genres that maybe influenced you wanting to write that?
In the mysteries, I grew up reading Nancy Drew.
Mhm.
I liked Nancy, and one of the reasons I like Nancy Drew is that she solved the mysteries. She wasn't sitting around waiting for somebody else saying, oh, there's a problem, and they go, okay, yeah, we need to solve it. No, she would go out and solve it. And I always appreciated that about it. I was, when I was real little, when I was in elementary school and stuff, I would play with the girl next door, and I was really into Peter Pan because this was when Mary Martin, would fly across the stage and things like on television. And I always wanted to be Peter Pan. I didn't want to be Wendy. Wendy had to sit around and wait for Peter Pan to save her. No, I wanted to be Peter Pan who would fight the pirates and then save other people. And I can remember my friend's mother saying, "You need to tell my daughter that you need to be Wendy sometimes." And I'm going, "Why?"
Right.
Right. All you do is wind up being tied up someplace waiting for Peter to save you. No, I'd rather be Peter.
Yeah.
And besides that, Mary Martin, was it Mary Martin? Whoever it was, that it was a female that was
played Peter Pan. Yep.
So, I didn't see any problem.
Yeah.
Right.
So since you mentioned Nancy Drew, I'm just going to throw out there Nancy Drew or Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, well, I'm writing a Sherlock Holmes series. So
Very cool.
Nancy was my inspiration when I was growing up. And I now have a series. It's called The Early Case Files of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, I looked up your Goodreads page and I saw those and I'm like, those sound really interesting.
Yeah, I've had one of the bases for the stories is I asked myself, well, first my first question was, how did Sherlock Holmes become Sherlock Holmes? This is what you do when you're on the treadmill and not having any, your brain is just there. And after some research and stuff, I thought, well, I found there's really very little about his life, his early life in the original stories. And I thought, well, the conventional thing would say that his father somehow inspired him or led him along the way. And I thought, no, what if it was the mother? And the mother's really this really brilliant woman, but she's being held back because of Victorian rules or norms.
Societal rules. Yeah.
Yeah. So she can't do some of the stuff that she'd like to do. So she works with her sons to move them in that direction. And that's one reason that the brothers are so smart, is because their mother was smart. And actually, in Victorian times, the mother was in charge of the children's education. And so she would have been, given her background, she would have ensured that they had a very unconventional training as well, at least for a while, until their father insisted that they have to go to off to boarding school, because that's what young men did in their position in life.
Yeah.
And so that was where all this came from. And the first novel is Sherlock is 13. His mother's been accused of murdering the village midwife, and he's got to solve the mystery before she hangs. He has to catch the real killer.
No pressure.
No.
That's cool. That sounds very interesting.
Well,
I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan. So
yeah, I really enjoyed writing these. I have a fifth one. The germ of it is working its way up, and so yeah, I plan to do more.
No, it's always fun. That time period's fun to write.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, dip your toes in there and kind of get rid of all the technology and everything, and just kind of dive into that.
Yeah.
So
I do a lot of research going, can I say anything about fingerprints yet? Can I say anything about this? Can I say anything about that? And so a lot of times the mother will, his mother will say something about, well, I just read this treatise on something, and I'm going, because, and quote the real, the real place, the real document, so that it's not like I made something up, but this is something that would have been known at the time.
That's going to be a lot of in-depth research to.
Yeah. And as a result of that, I write all these essays and I send them to the Sherlock Holmes Society newsletters. And then every 2 years I put them together into a book. So I have 4 volumes. I'm working on volume 5 right now.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, I figured when I started doing that, I thought, I'm doing all this research. It's a pity just to do it and dump it into my computer someplace. I should do something with it. And that was how the idea of essays came up.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And it also helps other future writers,
so
they can find that you've done some of the research, and they know that it's good information.
Yeah.
So
and they're all footnoted. So if you want to read further, you can.
That's awesome.
Wow. So you said you were part of the Romance Writers of America. Do you still write romance, or did you kind of move away and go just into mystery, or are your books mystery romance?
Well, I was never a full romance writer. I did what they call mainstream with romantic elements. I admire somebody who can stretch out a real romance, because I can't do that. I mean, it's really, you've got two people that for whatever reason aren't together at the beginning, and you got to get them through to get together at the end. You've got to have your happily ever after, but you got to throw in stuff in the between that keeps them apart. And I admire anybody who can do that. Well, I'm not one. That's just but I do have, like in the early case files, there's a female that's more or less Sherlock's age, and there's an attraction there, but he's 13. I'm not going to, do much more than have him have certain feelings for her.
A little crush on her.
Yeah. And the book that's coming out in July, which is a fantasy, which was just a fun book to write, about magic school dropout, is about a witch who has unpredictable powers, and at the end she's sent to live in the non-magical world with her mother. that she wasn't even sure wanted her to live with her, and there are reasons if you read the book. But I throw in a little romance in there too. But again, she's 14, and there's not a lot, but there's a little bit of attraction there.
Would you say that this fantasy and also the Sherlock Holmes, do they lean towards YA, or are they?
The Sherlock Holmes I view as an adult series, because some of the topics, like in the first book, I mean, midwife, it depends on the age. The fantasy is sweet, and it can be read by younger kids. Yeah.
Nice. That's very eclectic. I'm definitely wanting to check out the Sherlock Holmes. Just I keep hearing about different types of Sherlock Holmes stuff. Like Eric, you had told me the one, I forget the name of it, but it was like a horror Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, it's him versus the Cenobites from Hellraiser.
Yeah.
So
there are a lot of people out there writing Sherlock Holmes. Yeah,
I've got like 10 copies of different Sherlock Holmes and Dracula meeting by different authors and stuff. It's one of the things I collect is Sherlock versus. So
I have a short story that came out in an anthology, and and you can get it now for free. It's The Unconventional Homes.
Cool.
Is free, and Sherlock is already a vampire. In fact,
that's even cooler too.
It's a world of vampires, and somebody's murdering the vampires.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Now, do you have in your books, and of course, I don't want you to give too much away, but is there a Watson type character in your Sherlock? No. Just him and his brother? Or
well, and it's
I was gonna say his mom kind of
family
plays the part, right?
Yeah.
She's the one that he's gonna bounce.
Sherlock,
not in the first one, I guess, because
Sherlock is actually right. It's written in Sherlock's point of view.
Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah.
So I'm not sure where I heard this, but somebody said the reason that Watson wrote the Sherlock Holmes stories for the most part, or narrated them, is because if you wrote it from Sherlock's point of view, it would be, okay, I saw this and I thought this, and here's the killer. And you'd have very little action. And so
it's very dry.
Yeah. And so I have it from Sherlock's point of view because I'm working on him. His mother's almost Sherlock and he's the Watson at the beginning.
He's developing his skills, so to much.
Yeah, I'm shifting him over time, but in fact, I had one agent tell me, well, but you made him like Watson, and I'm going, yes, that's what I wanted. She didn't agree with me, but she didn't like it, but I liked it. That she saw that. That's what I was going for.
Now, are there any contemporary mystery writers that are you admire or you're influenced by? Because I don't particularly know very many off the top of my head mystery writers. But do you have any contemporary that you?
Gosh, there's so many. Well, I don't know if, I guess these are mystery. I enjoy the what's the name of the series? It's set in Africa. And I heard him speak last year at BoucherCon. Oh, I'm so terrible with names.
Yeah, I'm the same way. But you just sprang that on us, so I'm not sure. You ever read C.S. Harris?
I know I have, but I can't think of.
It's set in that kind of same time period, back pre-Victorian, or right on the cusp of it.
There's a writer, Merrill. He wrote First Blood, the series.
Yeah.
And he has one that's out, and his first book was entitled
the first one is
The Art of Murder. No.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna flail around. It's the guy that wrote Rambo,
Yeah.
so you know. And it's First Blood is the first one. That's his. I want to say
That's
that
his
was his
Rambo
second.
series.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, and he has another series that's Victorian,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah. I
mystery.
think it is called The Art of Murdering or something like that.
The Fine Art of. It's a fine art of murder.
Yeah, I think so.
The fine
Sorry
art
to
of.
throw a curveball at you. I just thought it was an interesting question.
No,
It was,
that's
but
I really like that series, and it's based on an actual person, Thomas de Quincey, who wrote Confessions of an Opium Eater.
yeah, Murder as a Fine Art.
Okay.
Yeah, there it is. And then yeah, he's got a ton of great series. Brotherhood of the Rose. He did he's got a really good horror novel that we should probably read called The Totem. Yeah, he's a great, and what I love about him as a writer is that he isn't pigeonholed.
No.
I mean, Brotherhood of the Rose is a spy thriller. There's some assassination stories he's got within that series. He does mysteries. He goes to the Victorian age. He's got First Blood, which is really like an action commentary on how we were treating Vietnam vets when they came home and stuff. So I mean, it's got a whole bunch of stuff just kind of put in, but at its heart, it's really just a pure action. You know, I guess it technically could be a horror story too, because it's, you know, small town politics coming up against this poor vet and how they tried to deal with it, and it just rolls out of control, and it becomes this man hunting other man kind of situation. So yeah, he's a great writer. I love a lot of his early stuff.
And I also have to mention Steve Barry. He writes more thrillers, but he gave me my first cover quote, so I will always
nice.
be grateful to him. Yeah,
he did the Templar stuff, right?
Yeah,
yeah, he's got some great stuff. I like
Cotton
him
Malone is one of his main characters. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, outside of writing, are you a big mystery, you know, unsolved mysteries, or a mystery person? Do you watch those types of shows, or?
Sometimes I'm really into Law and Order, although it doesn't exist anymore. But it's on a lot of times in the afternoons and stuff.
Yeah,
or a
24/7.
lot of times when I'm fixing dinner, so I'll throw on a Law and Order. I like the old original ones a little bit better than I like the other ones, partly because I think I haven't seen those as many times as I've seen the later ones.
Yeah.
Nice. So you're not like on watching, you know, all those true crime and they've never solved this thing.
No, not so much. Not so much. Partly because I just don't have enough time for everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so when you set yourself up to start writing, do you have music playing, or do you have silence?
I have to have silence. I was just at a writers conference or the Book Lovers Con, and Shayla Black was talking on a panel with two other authors, and Shayla and the other said, "Oh, I put on this music and this and that." And she goes, "No, got to have silence." And I'm that way. If you start playing music, I start singing along with the song or whatever. And no, I'm better off just silent. I don't get distracted. I think I'm just easily distracted.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I need silence. I just, it allows me to just focus and bang out the words and just get in the zone, you know.
Nope, I'm team music, so.
Everybody has a different style. I don't put it in. Just for me, what works is.
Yep. Everything, whatever gets the words down. That's all that matters.
Yep, exactly. So I'm trying to think. We've already talked about, so you said your newest work is that fantasy book that you have coming out. What's the title of that again?
Wilhelmina Quigley, Magic School Dropout.
That's a cool title.
Do you plan on having copies at AuthorCon? Oh, cool. Very cool. It's always fun when somebody has something brand new right there at the table.
Technically, it's not out until the 25th, but I said, why not?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Give people a
I'm likely going to be, I'll be snagging some of those Sherlock books.
Okay. And you can have your picture taken with Sherlock too. I have a cardboard cutout Sherlock.
Oh, that is so cool.
And, and I figured out that this would be a lot of fun. I bring a hat and a pipe. I ask people not to put the pipe in their mouth, and you can take your picture with Sherlock. Yeah.
Oh,
Very cool.
that is so cool, Eric. We're doing that.
All right.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
All right.
Now, do you think that you'll ever at some point progress into Sherlock as a young adult, like 20s?
My
or...
plan is to age him over time.
Oh,
At the end of the second book, he turns 14. And then he was 14 through books 3 and 4, and I said, I'm going to die before I get him up to the
Right, you don't want to do the
if
South
I'm
Park
not
thing.
careful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to age him a little bit faster, I think.
You all hear that?
yeah, I
what?
heard.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologize. My dogs are going crazy downstairs. So.
Just quickly, I heard it. There she goes.
I have 2 huskies, and they don't always take direction. So
Do you have any pets? We love pets on this show.
Oh, well, I have at the moment I have a cat that my son rescued, and then moved into an apartment, and we were left with the cat.
that happens.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he grew up on the mean streets of St. Louis, and he's not a kind and loving cat. He's not one of these. He'll come and sit on your lap, and if you start petting him, he'll bite you. So
that's a cat for you.
Yeah. So I'd like to say I like, he's around.
Yeah, that I think that sums up most cats. So.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
I had a son, my other son said, "Mom, why are you with this cat? Why didn't you make my brother take it?" And I said, "Well, for quite a number of years, we had a dog that belonged to somebody else. You."
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure how you can complain about your brother.
Yeah.
And he said, okay.
So Lisa, besides people coming to Texas Author Con and stopping at your table, where can people find your books?
I have my website, liesesherwoodfabre.com, but you can also check me out. I'm widely distributed. You can find me on Amazon, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, Apple.
Okay, cool.
Almost everything's both electronic and paperback. And but if you want a signed copy,
Right.
Come to Texas Author Con. It's a free event.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just down the road. It's literally almost across the street from where the Dallas chapter of Romance Writers of America used to meet when I first joined.
Oh,
Wow.
cool.
They're no longer there, but that was where so when I saw the hotel, I said, I know that area.
Yeah.
I was there once a month.
It's going to be nice. So I think a lot of people are going to have fun. Writers coming, and I think all the people, readers coming to discover new writers. I think it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a blast. So yeah, we'll have the links to your website down in the description of the video. We'll also have a link to the Eventbrite site for Texas Author Con to get a ticket. It's a free event, but if you want to be eligible for the door prizes, you do need to sign up for a ticket. Again, it's free. And we will see you all next week. And Lisa, it's been such a pleasure. You are such a fascinating person.
Can I put in a word for the other person that'll be at my desk?
Yeah,
sure.
At my table. That's Kathleen Baldwin. And she has she's a prolific writer, and she's been I think it's USA Today bestseller author. And she has a series called Strange House, which is about a group of unusual girls that are help, and it's an alternate history series set in the Regency period, where Napoleon does not wind up on Elba, or at least doesn't stay there.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that does sound interesting for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. That was kind of my field of study when I was in college. So
Napoleon?
that period of time.
Okay.
European history
Okay.
focused on
Oh.
France. So
Now you need to write a Regency horror. Now that I know that.
yeah, I know. Well, I got a long list of things I need to be writing. So
There's always Pride, Prejudice, and what was
zombies.
it? Zombies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually read that one.
A lot of
Did
good
you?
stuff in there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, all that's in the public domain, so you can really go wild with it.
Mhm.
Nice. All right. Well, again, thank you, Lisa, for joining us,
Thank
and we'll
you.
see
It was
you
great.
next week.
All right.
Take it
Look
easy.
forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.